My name is Tom Bowling. I serve as a member of the board of the National Capital Area chapter of the Fulbright Association, and would like to ask my fellow board members to stand and be recognized. Appreciate your presence this evening. We are also very fortunate to have the executive director of the Fulbright Association joining us on Zoom. And he will offer his own welcome. So, John Bader.
Well, thank you, Tom. I'm delighted to be joining all of you this evening, if remotely. I want to congratulate our friends at George Washington University for offering this option so that we can be more inclusive of each other. These hybrid gatherings are an extraordinary example of cooperation and technology working together so that we can join and be a community across the country. I understand that we're being joined this evening by students and others from New Mexico and Arizona, which I think is very exciting. Just a few thoughts for you this evening. One is that I'm delighted to be included in this special event celebrating Indigenous wisdom through film. It seems to me this is a perfect extension of the mission of the Fulbright program and the Fulbright Association, which is the alumni organization of the program. And that is that it is so important as a precondition for cooperation and peace that we begin with understanding. Understanding and education are fundamental to moving forward as a people, as peoples, and on this extraordinary planet. This evening's subject matter is extremely complex. It's fraught with emotional power. It is central to our identity, to our history, and I know that you will learn a great deal from these films that offer a perspective that many of us do not give enough attention to over time. The second point I want to make is that it's such an exciting moment of collaboration between Georgetown University, our local chapter, and so many people around the country, and these very fine filmmakers. The work that we can do together is so critically important. We live at a time of great division and great prejudice and suspicion, which is all very unfortunate and a barrier to our progress. And yet this evening is an example of how many people are trying to do much better than that. And then finally, I just want to thank Tom and Kennedy, the rest of the board, for the local chapter here in the Washington area, congratulating them on what is always exceptional programming. It engages so many people on so many levels. So congratulations to everyone. Thank you, GW, to our filmmakers, to the chapter, and to all of you for attending. I look forward to this presentation, and I wish you all well.
Thank you, John. I would also like to identify another critical sponsor to this event, and that is Transform Mid-Atlantic. Transform Mid-Atlantic is a network of about 40 institutions in this region who have come together to encourage colleges and universities to engage with their communities and to accomplish their mission of developing global citizens and building just communities. And we have, again, we're honored to have the executive director of Transform Mid-Atlantic, Madeline Yates, with us, and Anthony Wagner, who has provided just yeoman service. He is in New York. He's a graduate student in the program there. and is also the associate director of Transform Mid-Atlantic. So just kudos to our partnership, and very much appreciate all of the effort that you've put in to support this. And finally, we are very fortunate to be able to hold this event at George Washington University. And it is through really a connection that I made with Dr. Amy Cohen through Transform Mid-Atlantic and other organizations. I've known her national reputation in the area of service learning, a pioneer with the AmeriCorps program, and just a very valued colleague. So I would, and Amy is the assistant provost and the executive director of the Nashman Center for Civic Engagement here at GW. And I'd like Amy to come to the podium for a few words of welcome on behalf of GW.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. I really just want to welcome you to George Washington University. I'm delighted to have you here. We have a robust Fulbright program here, and we're delighted to have you here. When I come into this room, I've been to many, many events here, but the one I think of most, we had Secretary Hillary Clinton here for a full day's conference, and she was sitting in the front row right over there, right below Amanda. So I think of her when I come into this room, as well as we give a Martin Luther King Jr. Award to students and to faculty here. And I've seen many of those really honorable, service-oriented people come through. And I think this is a wonderful event to have in this room, and I'm delighted to do it. It's wonderful to be here with Tom Bowling, with Anne, with Madeline, who I've known for many years, and I look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.
Now I would like to, we have a special welcome, and to introduce the individual that will be providing that special welcome, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague who will introduce her friend, Ann Kennedy.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everyone. We also have another special guest here tonight, and that is Somah Haaland, and you'll hear from her later. She's the narrator of one of the films that we'll be looking at. 2 days ago, the world celebrated Earth Day, and we have been celebrating Earth Day for 54 years. Today, I am delighted to introduce you to someone who embodies passion for our environment and who has also played a pivotal role in shaping our collective consciousness about this planet we call home. As a dear friend and esteemed co-founder of Earth Day, Andrew Garling has dedicated his life to advocating for the sustainable practices and environmental awareness. His tireless efforts have inspired generations to take action and to work to make a positive difference for our planet. Please join me in welcoming Andrew Garling, a true pioneer in the environmental movement and a cherished friend.
Should I go ahead?
Well,
I will. Good evening. I want to thank Anne and Tom, and I am Andrew Garling, and I had the good fortune of being one of 3 graduate students who organized, as Anne said, the first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970. I'm turning 79 soon, and like Anne said, we've seen Earth Day turn 54 a couple days ago. Earth Day is celebrated now in over 196 countries on the planet. We 3 24-year-old students had no idea of this impact at that time, of course. And did we have a prophetic dream of success like the film Toya that we're going to see today? Honestly, I can't remember, but maybe. But first, again, I want to thank Anne and Tom for inviting me here for the celebrating the Indigenous wisdom through film. I'm honored to kick off this important event, and I'm honored to be in the presence of GW students, maybe through our little screens, and friends and visiting Fulbright scholars from all over the world, and the esteemed Fulbright alumni who have made lasting contributions to the many recesses of our planet. So the two films we'll see today remind me of two things. One, an important lesson we learned organizing Earth Day 1970. And the second, an echoing truth I hear today from that first Earth Day in these films I'd like to share with you. First, the 1970 truth. We learned, like in these two films, that the real fight for the environment, for the planet, is born from our own backyards. We learned that real awareness is informed from our knowing and loving our backyards. We learned that real success is first local, and then through interconnectedness, and that theme, interconnectedness, you'll hear again today in the films, the challenge goes forward. And then we finally saw that the real fight for the planet gained momentum April 22nd, 1970, and was heard across the country as a voice of solidarity for the planet's survival. It was quite a day. Now, before I have a senior moment and forget, what's the echoing truth I've heard from these films? It's simple. Our backyards are unique. Our backyards live of biodiversity. Our backyards are distinct ecosystems. The truth, to develop voice, we must start from the land we stand on, where we became caring and aware. These films, that land, that backyard for the Navajo people is the Four Corners, the Greater Chaco. For the Toya people, it's the rainforests of the Amazon. For us, it could be my creek, your hilltop, her vast plain, his streets and alleys, or it could simply be the sandlot where we all gathered as kids and first smelled the dirt and the grass as our own. But backyards are key places. They are places where we connect our feelings to the earth. Some of our humanity is actually born there. They can and do change. Some of you now have the towpath here in DC or the paddle waters of the Potomac as your backyard. I now hold the Rocky Mountains as my backyard here in Denver. Think about it. We all have them. Wouldn't we fight for these backyards? Wouldn't we actually fight for them? So, Earth Day was born and delivered. But how? I'd like to tell you a little about that. In 1969, a long time ago for some people, the then Senator Gaylord Nelson, Democrat from Wisconsin, suggested a national teach-in on the environment. There had been great teach-ins on the Vietnam War prior to that. But in 1969, there had been a huge, disastrous oil spill. Some might remember that washed up on the pristine beaches of Santa Barbara, California, covering birds in thick, gooey black tar. Marine life was also stuck in the tar. And then there had also been the Cleveland, Ohio Cuyahoga River catching on fire again. Not the first time, but again. National TV carried those horrific environmental images in 1969 into almost every home that had a TV. Our environmental world seemed to be circling the drain. We three students have been recognized as effective anti-war Vietnam War campus organizers. We were now at the same Harvard grad school studying public policy and roommates in Cambridge. Dennis Hayes, one of our three, was asked by Senator Nelson to come to DC and to organize college campuses such as GW, and to hold an environmental teach-in that spring in 1970. Well, the senator got a bargain, a 3-for-1 bargain. All three of us went to DC. And we said yes to the senator about organizing. But to ourselves, we said no. It's not going to be just college campuses. It's more than an academic exercise, a teach-in. It's got to be a national environmental protest about things happening everywhere. We built out a volunteer staff, believe it or not, of 120 people of all stripes, and crammed ourselves onto a second floor above DuPont Circle in DC. And in just about 3 months, we would take the environmental fight out to the biodiverse backyards of our nation. We took it to the grade schools that did Earth Day science experiments. We took it to garden clubs that picked up gum wrappers and planted trees in local parks. We took it to Rotary clubs, many who reluctantly pulled back the veil on local polluters. We took it to labor unions to question the environmental impact their own employers and companies were having on their backyards. We took it to 4-H clubs who learned to follow the manure that was being dumped from their farms into local ponds and algae-clogged waterways. And we did take it to thousands of colleges and high schools who biked and marched that day. Earth Day created an interconnected local outcry, and then a national voice was raised against the degradation of the nation's environment and to our one and only planet. In one of these films today, listen up, you're going to hear that some backyards are hideously named sacrifice areas by powerful corporate boards plundering our planet. My friends, none of our backyards are sacrificed areas, period. And like the voices we'll hear today in the films, our own Indigenous voices must become louder. Our cultural voices must develop powerful agents like current Secretary Deb Haaland or University President Tom Bowling here today at the lectern. Now, if you listen, and if you haven't already become fearless, an interconnected voice can be heard within each of us as a voice to act and not stand by and watch. Hey, the attack on the planet's climate is well underway. From our backyards, we can find a place to look within, look into our celebrated Indigenous wisdom, and find our own voice and join the voices of these in the films and make a lasting difference to the health of our planet. The time is now. Every day is Earth Day. I applaud you and the work that you will all do and are doing. And everyone, remember these important films. They are important. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. Appreciate all that you have done to make so much greater attention be placed and be focused on the earth and the issues that we all have as we try to take care of it. So thank you very much. Before we introduce some others who will be making some brief remarks online, I'd like to invite Somah Haaland, who is the narrator of our story. And if you would like to come to the podium, Somah, she is a climate justice organizer, as well as doing a variety of things in film and in the arts.
Let's go to the podium in a minute. Hello, my name is Somah Haaland, and I come from the Pueblos of Laguna and Jemez in so-called New Mexico. I've been living as a guest in Navajo in Brooklyn, New York for the last 5 years. And I work for an organization called Pueblo Action Alliance, which is a grassroots organization based in Albuquerque that kind of blossomed out of our two founders meeting during the Standing Rock protests in 2016. So we do a lot of things in our org, but climate justice is kind of the center of our work. So I'm really excited to share this film with you. We created this film, Our Story, the Indigenous-led fight to protect Greater Chaco in 2020 during the pandemic. So a lot of things were happening. But I, as a filmmaker and an artist and a Pueblo person, this film is very special to me because I think that bringing issues to light through film is such a valuable medium that really, I think, helps to cultivate empathy where it may not have existed before. So, and a lot of people, can you raise your hand if you've heard of Chaco before? Okay, cool. So about half of you, that's great. But yeah, I think I'm just excited to share the film with you. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you everyone who made this event happen. And I would just like to call some centering energy into the room, because these topics are really difficult to talk about, but they're really important. And even though we're 1,800 miles away right now from, or I guess that's New York. I don't know exactly how many miles away from New Mexico we are right now, but fighting to protect Chaco goes beyond that region because the oil and gas fracking that's happening in Chaco is contributing to the global climate crisis in a really intense way. So something I always say is we're not just doing this work for us, we're doing it for everybody. And I hope that y'all get that through these stories. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll do some unpinning here. We're also delighted to have the director of the film, The Vision Within, Mike Snyder. All right, you're up, my friend.
Hey, Tom. Hi, Tom and everyone. Well, it's wonderful to be here tonight. Again, my name is Michael Snyder. I'm a photographer and filmmaker, originally from Appalachia and now living in upstate New York. And I'm actually a climate and environmental scientist by training, but I think like a lot of climate scientists, I became increasingly frustrated by the fact that despite what we know, we just aren't moving the needle nearly enough on these issues. Despite the science and despite all of the inspiring things that actually are happening, we're just not getting enough done on raising public awareness and action around these issues. So about 15 years ago, I made a transition into out of science and into visual storytelling, and that's been my job since. And in large part because I think the stories we tell, and in particular visual stories, have an enormous power to shift attitudes and behaviors on these critical issues at this critical time. And then just last year, I made a transition back into academia, and I'm now an assistant professor of visual communications at Newhouse School at Syracuse University, which you can see here behind me. I'm still at work. And much because I also think education has that same power and potential. So for me, it's in service of much the same thing. So The Vision Within is a film that I shot in partnership with Tom at Frostburg State University and the Pachamama Alliance. And it follows the journey of a group of students as they're given a very special invitation to visit the Achuar people who live in a remote part of the Ecuadorian rainforest. And we knew that that alone was going to be an amazing journey and hopefully an amazing story. But what we didn't know and we couldn't have anticipated what would happen next. What would happen after the students left the Amazon and brought their new learning and this new way of seeing the world back home. So without spoiling the answer to that question of what happened next, I'm very excited to share the Vision Within with you and to field any questions that I can afterwards. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. So just very, very brief comments before I share the screen and watch the Vision Within. One of the two things that these films have in common is that they show vision, but they also show a fight. And it's that combination that I think enables us to make a difference in this world. So the Vision Within is one of 3 films that Frostburg State University produced in cooperation with Michael Snyder. And it was towards the end of my career at Frostburg, but something that will always live with me.